let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. My name is Mike Stratton. I am a systems engineer here at Verify, and I will be your host for today's workshop. Today, we are joined by Mr. Matt Sykes. How's it going, Matt?
Hey Mike, good. How are you, buddy?
Good, good, thank you. Matt is going to demonstrate what to do when your Cube router stops sending data, and then on top of that, how to recover any missing data from Flash. Today, we're going to start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do. Next, Matt will show us what to do when the Cube router stops sending data. Then we'll pause for some Q&A and get back and get any of your questions answered. During the demo, if you have any questions, make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel in the bottom right corner of your screen. Then after Q&A, we will reward one lucky attendee a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around to see if you've won. Quick overview of Verify. Verify is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. We provide industry-leading CDR, UCCX, and Cube call analytics, customizable dashboards and widgets, remote phone control, and change management. But today's webinar is going to focus solely on Cube. And then last but not least, for those of you looking for more hands-off Verify experience, we do offer a managed consulting service. This is a service that provides a dedicated Verify SE to do all the heavy lifting, giving you and your users a completely hands-off experience. Think of it as an extension of your organization. It provides upgrades, one-on-one training, report and dashboard building, or anything you need. Your dedicated Verify system engineer has you covered. The only thing you have to do is give us a call or send us an email. If you want any additional information on our ECS service, feel free to reach out to your account manager. We'd be happy to see if ECS is right for you. With that said, I'll pass the ball to Matt and we'll go into the wild.
Hello, everyone. Matt Sykes with Verify. Welcome to, once again, like Mike said, another Wednesday workshop webinar. Today, we're going to focus on the Cisco Cube router's inability, or I guess discontinuing of CDR delivery to a Verify instance. So an example like this dashboard widget I have here, or even if you have like analytic reports that run on a daily or even a weekly schedule, and then those reports are now showing up with no data in them. So definitely we've seen this, and I suppose the main question is why? Why does the Cube stop sending CDR files to Verify? Well, it's kind of like the same reality that we have when we actually see it happen to call manager CDR files, that get sent over on the every minute job. Periodically that happens within certain environments, and within call manager, all you need to do is just reset a service within the serviceability pages to resume that delivery of CDR to Verify. But as well as it also sends all the back stuff, all that has been buffering on the UCM. Cube does not do that. So when the Cube goes down, and normally, I suppose the why, excuse me. So it would be some type of interference. Now, whether that's something connection or firewall related, or some type of security patches, certainly stuff like that can cease CDR, UCM CDR delivery as well as Cube CDR delivery. So we see it seldom. I mean, it doesn't happen very rampant, but we definitely do see it. So for instance, like this widget we're looking at here, data has stopped being delivered to me since 5/21 in my lab here. So a couple things we can do. First, we'll want to actually check a couple things on the front end of the Verify instance. So let me just toggle over to my Cube cluster. And we can check the data summary clipboard here. Now, this lab, for this cluster, I know I've got no data in it, but for example purposes, imagine this says data up to May 21st, 22nd, or something along those lines. Today being the 25th, we definitely know there's no recent data for the past few days. So what we can do there is then check a few things. We'll want to take a look and see for the logs of the FTP server that's running on the Verify instance, are we even seeing any connections, attempts being made from the Cube? Now, the Cube file delivery is FTP, which is obviously not the most preferred delivery method, but it's the only utilization for file transfer coming out of Cubes, minus the unsecured TFTP option, which will actually kind of cover that one in a little bit as well. So what we're going to want to take a look at is, okay, we've got no data, or data has been ceasing to be delivered from the Cube router over to Verify. So we can certainly look at the dashboards, look at the data summary clipboards to see when was the last record that we got. But also what we're going to do is we're going to check some logs on the back end of the Verify Linux instance of my lab. And so let me pull up a couple SSH terminals here. So we can take a look at, well, first, excuse me, I'm sorry. Let's actually check the Cube cluster configurations within Verify. So we'll go to the settings here, clusters, and we'll go right into the cube just to confirm the data directory that the files should be getting delivered to. All right, here's my cube cluster. This may look a little more newer than maybe some of your systems. That's just because I'm running on a beta version of our new 13.0 that's not ready yet. So that's why some of these screens may just look a little newer than you'd expect. Okay, so within this cube cluster here, I'm expecting data to be delivered down to this directory within my my Linux OVA. So I can tap into that with the a PuTTY session, or I can pull up open an SFTP client if I like. But let's go ahead and well, we can do it two different ways. But I already have it kind of opened up here in FileZilla. Let's take a quick peek here then. So that data directory in the background should be opt verify data, and then a directory that I have mapped for my cube router data. So let's just drill on in there. That is opt verify data. And then here's my Cisco 2901. So that's exactly the folder directory that should be getting CDR files delivered to it. Certainly we can see no data is being sent. Obviously we know the graph in the dashboard has ceased, as well as the data summary clipboard probably shows no activity or no data processing over the previous X amount of days. So what I would recommend first things first, so no data is coming from Cube. So we can take a look at the logs. So we have an FTP server, excuse me, built into the Linux OVA these days that handles the Cube, FTP deliverables. So let's actually take a quick peek at that. And I'm going to reference what I did send out in the WebEx chat at the beginning of this call, was this knowledge base article. I'm going to use this as a point of reference, but this is how we would configure, a brand new Cube cluster within Verify. But I'm really just kind of combing down because I want some of the Cube commands that are in here. So what we can do is, so we're using VSFTPD as the FTP server within the Verify Linux instance. So I'm going to check the logs. So the logs are actually embedded down here in the var log directory. So I'm going to run. I can run those from command line real briefly, or I can download it. From, excuse me. I can download it from the FTP client if needed. I'm losing my PuTTY. Here it is. Okay, so let's just jump down in there real briefly. Okay, say sudo cat var log and vsftpd. Okay, so now we can take a look at the most recent logs that we have for the FTP server here. Now I've been playing in my lab earlier than this call, so I was successfully transferring files over, so that's why I have a lot of good connections. But in an environment where it has ceased to send data to us, we should probably see maybe these logs have been updated in a few days, for instance. We're not seeing the connection coming from my 1020 3192 since a couple of days ago. Well, that certainly just tells me that the FTP job is not making out and over to the Verify instance. Also, maybe there's some errors in here that you see. Maybe there's a bad account, maybe a bad home directory for the FTP account. Certainly, we can look at that and review that on a support call. But for the most time, when there's this little interference, the Cube CDR ceases to send data to us, it should be a straightforward kind of reset, but not as easy as in call manager, but just a little lengthier within the cube. So what I would do here is taking a peek at that, seeing that we haven't seen any data files coming over since, in the past few amount of days. I would actually probably open up a connection into my cube. Let me pull it up real briefly. Other monitor, of course. Let's go ahead and get logged in, and let's go into my enable mode, my enable password. And what I want to do is actually take a look and see what's in the Cube Flash, because once the CDR files stop getting delivered on the automated hourly job from Cube, they start to mount up and build up in Flash. So rattling on down here, so just like this. So we're seeing CDR, 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 CDR. But obviously these are older, but these would be in the production environment. These would be more recent. So we can certainly see them piling up within Cube's Flash, and we want to two things. We want to resolidify the delivery of these files to Verify, but then also we want to come back to Flash and pull all these out and get them into Verify as well, so that they're not building up and eating up disk space on the Cube router itself, because that would be pretty horrible actually if CDR files took down a router. Okay, so we can see these files sitting here in the Cube. So one thing I would actually recommend probably doing would be to actually kick a force command to actually kind of flush out Cube's Flash and send data over to us. I have a reference document here to showcase for us. All right, we're going to follow this guy along. Let me pull up my terminals, and we'll comb through all this. And don't worry, you don't need to write all this stuff down. I will have a knowledge base article on the verify.com website by week's end on all this information and documentation that we're walking through right now. Okay, so we can kick off a job, and I have my SFTP server here just to maybe look at this a little more easier. We should be able to kick off a flush command to go ahead and push to close the current writing file within Qubes Flash over to the Verify instance. But before I do so, just because I don't want the processor to grab that file while we're playing with this, let me go ahead and just disable the processing within Verify. So that way we can, we're not at in jeopardy of the application grabbing and ingesting data that we haven't seen because we just didn't have a quick enough chance to check it because this collection could be set down to, I know, 2 or 5 minutes. Okay, so let me pull my documentation back up. I need more windows. All right, so we'll take a look at the server in a minute. Okay, so from the Cube, so we have the processing disabled. So we know where it's supposed to go. So first thing I actually may want to take a quick look at is actually look at the job that we have defined within the Cube sending data over to Verify. So in the enable mode, should be able to show run, pipe, begin, GW-accounting file. And there it is right here. Here's my full job here. This should be sending data over to my .180 lab. I'm using this user ID, that password, and these are the particulars per the configuration documentation that you can review. Okay, so that is all set. That should be fine. You're probably not seeing any errors within the VSFTPD logs on the Verify instance, so certainly it just seems that the CDR job off of Qubes needs a kick in the rear. However, there's no easy button to do it, but we will attempt to go ahead and kick off this flush command right here to go ahead and force that out. So I'm going to run this command right here, right now. Now, most of the time, I have certainly seen in the field where the files will not get delivered, even with this this command. Now, in my lab, they're going to because it's not a production environment. So it's actually, I ran it, file accounting, it's closing the job, and it should be flushing it out and getting delivered to here, or it should. But in the field, I don't see it doing that. Now, my lab is a little easier, and it's not as convoluted as certain systems may be. But let me remove that. So say a file didn't get delivered over to us. So, okay, what would we do then? So what I would recommend doing then would be actually to kind of null out that job that we had. So to pretty much remove this, remove this GW accounting file configuration. So we can do that in the configure T. Yeah, I see, I've got it back here. So yeah, so to remove the job. So we're going to pretty much just no GW-accounting file, and that should remove it. And we will jump out of that. Show run, begin, GW accounting file. And there's no definition, nothing comes back. Okay, so it has been wiped. So this is me just kind of reconfirming right there. So now we'll also want to redefine the job. So I have all this kind of queued up here for myself, in my lab. So I'm just gonna grab all these and toss them in their bulk just to get the job back in there. There we go. And even in a production environment, now if the FTP account can log in right over to this directory, we should see a file get delivered, even in a production environment. So that's good. So that actually lets me know that the FTP connectivity has been restored, and that the hourly job for the Cube delivery should resume. So now the next question is going to be, what do we do about all those files that are actually sitting in the Qubes Flash, excuse me. So the best way, and I'm definitely open for suggestions on this. So as I mentioned, so I'm just showing Flash out right here. I see plenty of CDR files here. So it's to get our hands on them, pull them out of Flash, and wipe them out of Flash, and then get them into Verify. So there's a couple of different ways we can do this. Now, looking at the documentation I have here, I was definitely searching high and low for this information on how to do this easily in bulk without having to, onesie twosie, copy certain files, because we certainly can do that. Now, my buddy Danimal, for his KB here, so you can certainly run a FTP command to copy, single individual files. Well, what if you have a couple hundred of them? Nobody wants to do this because you need the exact file name that's sitting in Cube Flash for this to even to be successful. So once again, nobody's going to want to do that. So what we will do, flushing out the job. So what I have actually encompassed right here, excuse me, is to use some logic that's been embedded within the Cisco routers for some time, and it's actually called TCL, tool command language. So we're actually going to use that kind of that scripting mechanism there. So it's a TCL TCL shell script is what we're going to use. So what we'll do here is we're going to go into configure T mode. We're going to type file prompt quiet, so we don't have to yes, yes, yes on every one of our files to confirm them. All right, so we've set that in the config T. So now we're actually going to go into the TCL shell. Now we're in TCL, as you can see. And I'm going to go ahead and just copy this guy. So what we're doing, what I've done here is actually, now the TCL certainly, there's hours of reading you can certainly do with that, but there's a lot of automation and scheduled jobs that TCL can certainly service. I'm pretty much just using it for plain Jane, rudimentary, just one-time file copies. That's really all I'm doing, no automation here. So what we're doing, because I can't key off of just CDR star out of Flash, I have to set a file list. So with TCL, we're going to set a file list in Flash directory, no complaints on CDR star. All right, we will set the list there. Those are all of my files here that begin with CDR star, if you will, in Flash. And then I have two options, at least I've found out so far, that work pretty easily. We can copy them all over via TFTP. If you have a TFTP server that's running obviously outside of the Verify instance, certainly you can do that. I have one here on my Windows machine, which I'll show you in a moment. But I think the most logical ease of use would be actually use the same job pretty much, or the same definitions that we're using on the FTP job within Cube as it is anyways. So these are the definitions that I just reinserted. We saw the one file get delivered, telling me that the FTP communication with this account and password to that directory is back up and running. So now with these actually set in a file list, I'm pretty much just going to use that same account just to kick them all over. So I'm going to copy this. Before I hit the enter button on that, let's just go ahead and maybe pull up this FTP client. We'll hit enter here. And now it's going to run through all those CDR star files there. I'll go ahead and refresh my router, my server here, and now we see all those CDR files that have been delivered into the directory we expect them to be in. Now the Verify processor is disabled at the moment, and I want it to be that way so I don't lose visual aspect of these files, at least getting dropped in here. So we'll turn that back on. These files will get ingested and written into the SQL database for reporting. Okay, so now we've gotten all the files over. Now the FTP job is definitely the one I'm probably going to recommend just because it's using the same account that we already have defined in the GW accounting file job. But you could also even send them over with a TFTP job. So I actually have a SolarWinds free trial TFTP server on my Windows box, and that is easy as well. That is my current DHCP address, but I can kick these over to my TFTP server as well. Oh, come on, you're not going to copy for me? All right, let's go ahead and get that ready. Right, my home directory for that is this guy right here. Of course, it's on the other monitor. They should drop in below this that CME folder. I've got that for something else. And there they come. So whether or not you want to send this easily to a TFTP server that you already have set up, and then maybe drag and drop them through an SFTP client into Verify, certainly you have a couple options there to go ahead and do that. How many do we have here? But okay, so those are the two options that I think are the easiest to go ahead and get the data out, the files that we need out of Cube. Once again, I definitely recommend the FTP job because it's going to put it exactly into the directory that we want it to anyways, and you don't have to secondarily grab all these files off your TFTP root and upload them into the Verify instance. So definitely recommend using the FTP job. But now, okay, so that's good. So we've gotten the files. Now, how to get rid of them out of Flash. So that's kind of what we want to take a quick look at, and I'm looking for better ways, so I'm definitely kind of propose a challenge here to the group and to the user base as well, because I am looking for a better bulk deletion that's maybe safer and easier. So let me jump out of this this TCL job here. So we'll go ahead and show Flash again. And I'm not gonna, even though they're older, these are from 2014, so these are some pretty old Cube files here that are in here, but I'm not gonna wipe them anyways. There are a couple other files, these guys. I'm gonna dump these guys out just for the examples for today's workshop. But that's everything that's sitting in Flash. So pretty much the easiest delete command is going just to be delete Flash : / CDR star. But in this case, I'm gonna pick on those two CMEs. So let's just go ahead and type that out. But we will get a confirmation. So that's kind of what I'm looking for from the group. What can we do? CME CDR. There's two of them I want to get rid of. So we're going to get a confirmation on each one of those deletions. Now, obviously, if you have 200, 300 CDR files sitting in Cube, you don't necessarily. I mean, yeah, you could rattle off 100, 200 enters in a row successively to wipe them, but I'm kind of looking for a better option myself. But here we can certainly do this. So delete flash, pointing at the CDR file, it will populate that the first file in question. I'll hit enter here, and then there's the next one. There are only two. All right, that drops that. So then I can easily show flash again. And those CME CDR files should no longer be in there. Now the CDR ones are because I did not want to remove them, and I didn't want to remove all these other CME pieces, so that's why I used CME CDR. Let me just roll down, and yeah, they were right above the Veeam instance. So yeah, they're gone. So once again, I mean, I did have to confirm and hit the enter key to go ahead and delete those, but I'm definitely open for suggestions. Okay, and then from there, obviously we have files. Let me pull up my client here. So we have those, those CDR files sitting in here. I'll just go ahead and turn my processor back on, even though they're from a couple of years ago. But then the processor will now go ahead and resume its processing of anything that's sitting in that directory. Let's check the database here. Of course it is. Oh, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Why is it suspended? That's how you know this webinar is live. Okay, so something's awry with my schema here. Or actually, probably just doesn't like the files, I bet. All right, because yeah, they're pretty old and they probably don't match the cube router that I'm actually even using for today's example purposes. But I think everyone kind of gets the gist of it. There are a couple other deletion commands we can probably try that I see someone commenting on right now. So I'll probably give those a whirl and then add that into my knowledge base article that I'm going to put on the verify.com website later this week. So kb.verify.com. This is the configuration link that I had sent through at the beginning of this webinar. So also will be the knowledge base article that I'm going to write and post to this this page here come Friday. So I guess that was kind of short and sweet. I don't have too much more to show. Obviously, this happens seldom, but getting all those files off of the Cube Flash, is a little cumbersome, and nobody wants to manually copy those one by one. So we're definitely, I'm definitely open for suggestions and hoping to hear some suggestions as well on how to go about that a little more safer and easier. Mike, do we have any questions from the audience today?
We have the one comment from Charles that suggested the command. I don't know if you see, I'm assuming you saw that in the chat.
Ah, yes, I did. I see. Yeah, the force flash. Okay.
Yep. And then one final question, kind of related. When you configure the push, does the router push every hour on the hour, or does it push every 60 minutes from the time you start the push?
Great question, and it's actually the latter. So, I mean, if the job was set up within the cube, at right now we're 23 minutes past the hour. If we set it up right now, it's going to be every the 23rd minute of every hour. It's not on the hour, but it is the 60-minute delivery. Yes.
And that is it for the Q&A. Unless anyone has any last-second questions. Going once. Going twice.
Yeah, like I mentioned, everyone. I mean, you didn't need to necessarily take notes and and copy everything or screen capture everything that I had in this sheet here. I'm going to put all of this into the knowledge base article, and you'll be able to follow it just like all of our other knowledge base articles. Go ahead, Mike.
Perfect. That's it. No other questions from the group.
Okay.
Then let me, at this point, I will take back control. All right. Perfect. Awesome. Excellent job as always. It's Exit the Wild, did the Q&A. I want to remind everybody, though, about Planet Verify. It's our new online community where our users and partners can connect with us and with other verified users to kind of expand our knowledge, kind of talk amongst, with questions and answers, and basically cover anything Verify. You can also sign up there to be a beta tester for Verify EFT 13.0. So if you're interested in being a beta tester or just kind of joining us at Planet Verify, hop on over to planet.verify.com or verify.com/planet to take a look around. And if you're planning on going to Cisco Live this year, we will be there. You can find us at booth 3362. We will also be hosting an after-hours meetup with customers and partners. So if you're interested in hanging out with us, let your account manager know. All right. And the moment we're all waiting for, the winner of the $50 Amazon gift card is Greg Kennington. Congratulations, Greg.
Woo!
Your account manager will be reaching out to you shortly. And don't forget, join us next week where Brian and Matt will come back and to show you how to track transferred calls and auto attendant calls using the Cradle to Grave reporting. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you all.